This is The Professionals, a podcast by music business technology and broadcast media technology students on Outcast OCCR Owens Community College Radio. In this series, students will interview industry professionals in their respective fields to help gather an idea of what it's like to work in their industry.
My name is Alex Drabek. I want to welcome Jill Mitchell-Williams for speaking with me. She's a freelance television producer / writer. She's worked on shows like Ellen's Next Great Designer, Murder Made Me Famous, and The Biggest Loser. I just wanted to start off by asking you, what was the moment that got you into this industry that you're in?
I grew up in Perrysburg, Ohio, and Toledo, Ohio. I went to University of Toledo briefly, and then I moved to Arizona, and I wound up graduating college from the Walter Cronkite School within Arizona State University. My degree was in broadcast journalism, and I covered a presidential election. It was the Bush-Gore election, which there was a lot of back and forth on that election. It seemed like every other day we had a new president. One day it was Bush, one day it was Gore. There was this whole pregnant Chad, hanging Chad, a missing rider truck in Florida with these ballots. I'm sure you can Google all of that. I saw a lot of staging of the news, which when you go to the Walter Cronkite School, that's a big no-no. So at that moment, I decided that entertainment was going to be a better choice for me. I picked up and moved to Los Angeles without really knowing anyone there.
I'm sure that was a big step for you, transitioning from a small city like Toledo to moving to Los Angeles.
It was huge. It was a whole new world. Los Angeles was a whole new world I wasn't familiar with. I'm not even sure if I went there as a kid to visit. I just knew that if I wanted to work in entertainment, I was already in Tempe, Phoenix, Arizona, that it was close. Yeah, I picked up and moved to Arizona. My senior year of college, I was working 30 hours a week. I had one day off a week, and that was Sunday. I would literally finish work. I had an internship Saturday morning. Then I went to work. Then I would drive to Los Angeles. I knew like one person who I'm not even in touch with anymore, and would crash on their sofa and drive around, try to familiarize myself with Los Angeles, try to find a place to live, try to network, and then drive back on Sunday. It was a lot, but it was something that I wanted, and I knew that it was within reach.
Anybody who decides to get into this profession, how do you think they should prepare themselves?
There's several ways I would recommend that people prepare. The first one I would say is, if you want to get into movies, into film, watch film, study film. And I don't mean just what's out right now. Study classic films like Citizen Kane and understand why Citizen Kane was important. I believe Citizen Kane, for example, was important because it was the first time certain camera angles had been used. They wanted to do a low to high camera angle, so they literally had to saw into the floor to place the camera. So if you want to go into film, study film. If you want to be a director, study different directors. Why do you like them? If you want to be a writer, whether it's screenplays or novels, study writers. Unless you want to go into operating a camera or audio, study those people as well. There's excellent cinematographers out there. Rachel Morrison is a popular cinematographer. She's an Instagram account. Follow her. If you want to be a writer, Stephen King wrote this great book called On Writing. Yeah, it's great if you want to write a novel, but it's also just going to help you be a better writer. This is a craft. It's worth studying if you want to get into it. I would say also there's free trade publications that are available to anyone. Variety, Deadline Hollywood, Hollywood Reporter, those are all free. And there's different editions. You can sign up for those and kind of start introducing yourself to this world and who the players are and the movers and shakers. Like anything you want to be good at, you want to research it, study it.
What skills do you feel are most useful within the industry?
I'm in television, unscripted reality television, and I'm a producer. You need to be calm under pressure. You need to be a problem solver. You need to think out of the box. You need to be hyper organized. You need to have several plans in place, plan A, plan B. I know I tend to have plan C, D, E, and F, sometimes more, because plans have a way of falling down mid-flight, and you need to have a backup plan because production is expensive. You're paying for camera operators, audio, sometimes a location. And if things don't go according to plan, you need to maximize the money that you have. You need to be able to write. You need to be able to direct small camera crews. So understanding camera angles. You need to be able to tell a story, follow a story, know that you're getting every element you need to tell that story. It's a lot of scene work. So what do you need for a scene? You need a beginning, a middle, and an end. How does scene work generally? Well, at the top of the scene, you have an establishing shot. A lot of times it's an exterior or some B-roll to get you into the scene. Let's say the scene is two girls in a nightclub in Miami. Well, you're going to want something that screams Miami. So maybe it's nighttime, palm trees, an Art Deco building with some pumping music. Okay, well, that's going to tell you we're in Miami. Then you go inside, maybe you see shots of bartenders pouring drinks. Then you're going to have the dialogue of whatever that scene is about. Maybe one of the girls is breaking up with her boyfriend. Well, why? What was the straw that broke the camel's back? You know what I mean? You need to get all of that information out. You need to get cutaway shots, reaction shots. Then you need an end to the scene. Usually scenes like that, I mean, it's cheesy. People do it all the time. It's so cliche. It'll end on the two girls doing a cheers or something. So it's understanding what scenes are as well. Strong work ethic and being a good communicator. If you're communicating with the crew, with the cast, with your bosses, with PAs, you're working with laws. You have to break for meal after 6 hours in most states. You have a lot going on at the same time. It's managing all of those things and juggling everything all at the same time.
What do you think was the toughest challenge of your career?
Years ago, I was hired to help launch Project Runway All-Stars, which was obviously a spinoff of Project Runway with All-Stars. It was just me and my boss at the time. We had a line producer, which is someone who handles the money, budgeting. And the network kept telling us, we're just waiting for Heidi, Tim, Nina, Michael, all of their contracts to be done. So just sit tight. And on Project Runway, each week, there's a challenge and there's a guest judge. We were told, don't worry about any guest judges because Heidi Klum's company, Full Pick, they book all the guest judges. So don't worry about the guest judges. And we're still doing their deals. So we're waiting, and we just decided, let's just write challenges. This is back when I lived in Los Angeles. So the clock is ticking down. I'm like, okay, we're heading out to New York soon. We literally have no talent for our show confirmed. Nobody. I think it was 2 weeks before we left. We were told none of them were doing our show. None of them. We had no host, no mentor, no judges, no challenges approved, no guest judges. Nothing. We had nothing. We just scrambled and pulled out an incredible season. It was actually under that type of intense deadline that I was able to book, in my mind, the biggest celebrity of my entire career. It took me a month, but I was able to get Miss Piggy, which was huge. We booked the show. That was during the time when Harvey Weinstein was in his heyday. This was a Harvey Weinstein show. And Harvey got us his wife to be the first judge, Georgina Chapman. And we pulled it out, and it was a fantastic season. But yeah, we had 2 weeks to write and book everyone for an entire first season spin-off show.
You don't hear stories like that around where I'm from. That sounds very, very stressful, but I think that's a cool story to tell other people, I'm sure.
Now that it's done, not that I ever want to go through that again.
What activities did you participate in and things you did to improve your skills related to the industry?
I read books on writing, how to be a better writer. I practice writing. In television, part of your research is watching other shows, seeing what other people are doing. Maybe you watch a series and you're like, wow, they have a great graphics package. Or maybe it's, wow, the way they showed a text message exchange is a way you've never seen before. It can be anything from reflection in eyeglasses to the way you shoot it and you give enough negative space that you can have graphics pop up in that negative space. So it's kind of hearkening back to what I was saying earlier about research. It's staying on top of trade publications, watching the hit shows. You never know what is going to inspire you. It could be a piece of art. It's submerging yourself in the craft and dedicating yourself to push yourself to be better.
How did you stay motivated through the difficult times or challenges you may have faced in your profession?
The thing about my profession is that I'm a freelancer. I'm not in a profession where if I'm working with some people and it's just like the dream is that you're working so hard that everyone feels like a family. Some families are dysfunctional. The good part about being a freelancer is that it's going to end. These jobs don't last years and years. They're months. Really, it's just like having a positive attitude and doing the best that you can, knowing there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel and you'll move on to something else. You got to keep setting the bar higher for yourself. There's production companies out there that I'm like, I would love to work for that production company. They're just masterful storytellers. I think what motivates me is always looking ahead.
What advice would you share with students on what courses they should take so they can develop their skills in this field?
I mean, it depends on what they want to go into. I think there's something to be said for, take for example, if you want to become a cinematographer, don't just learn video equipment and don't just learn modern day video equipment. There's some who shoot on film, which is very expensive, but they do it and it feels different. It's a different viewing experience. I would say, going back to cinematography, take a photography class. With writing, make sure you're taking creative writing classes, but also grammar classes. Look up other screenplays. I think it's like the first page of Breaking Bad, episode 1, is out there in the ethos, and it is brilliant. If you want to be a writer or write screenplays, read that. And there's, more than one way to skin a cat. Read different screenplays. If you want to be a producer, I learned because of news and got into entertainment. I would say don't be afraid, especially in like your junior and senior years, to take other classes that are adjacent to your major. I think you get a few, at least I did. I took a journalism class. My major wasn't print journalism, but I learned a lot. In that class, if you misspelled someone's name, it was an automatic F. But it's like, that's how important that is. Don't be afraid to take adjacent classes. It's ultimately going to make you better. Or to just take a film studies class. Maybe it's film studies of the 30s and 40s or the 50s and 60s. All of that will ultimately inform you and make you more well-rounded.
When was the moment you knew what you wanted to do, and how has this path that you've taken impacted you and your life?
College is hard. You're young. You have to pick something that you're supposedly going to do the rest of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once I got into the production aspect of my major, I loved it. I loved everything about it. That's when I knew I'm going to do production in some way, in some genre, whether it's news, entertainment, like TV, film, whatever. I knew I wanted to do production.
How has this career choice impacted you?
Most of all, it's been positively received. I'm not going to lie. Ever since we had that one president, it's not as positively received. Mm-hmm. And it's this entire industry. It's not just film. It's not just TV. And it's not just journalism. We've somehow all gotten lumped together. Believe it or not, I think that's impacted everyone's lives. It's easy to think that it hasn't. I mean, I used to live in Los Angeles. Now I live in New York. So I'm in a bit of a bubble. But when you travel outside that bubble for work or to visit family or what have you, you're not as eager to tell people what you do. There's been a lot of lies spread about this industry. And that's really unfortunate, from the cabal drinking baby blood and being sex traffickers, and that has truly been awful. All we wanted to do, the majority of us, we just want to tell stories. We just want to entertain people. We're all storytellers at the end of the day, mm-hmm. whether because you're holding a camera or you're actually writing or even audio. It's all storytelling. So I would say the majority of the way this has impacted my life has been positive, but it has been bumpier. Presidency, not going to lie. I mean, I have one friend who his supporters went after him because he worked on The Apprentice. So you work on one show and we're just trying to entertain people. We didn't sign up to be politicized.
Right. No, that I can understand how that's frustrating. I think when it comes down to it, people are going to act the way they are, no matter how much you tell them, we're just entertaining. If they're not going to listen, there's no point trying to convince them. On to my next question. How have you networked throughout the industry?
When I first got to Los Angeles, I kind of knew one person, and I literally emailed every single person I knew and was like, do you know anyone in Los Angeles? I'm trying to break into the entertainment industry. It took 6 months until I had a job in the industry. And from there, once I got my foot in, anytime I interviewed somebody, anytime if I was out at a networking event, I would get people's email address. I would try and meet up with them. I would send thank you cards. A lot of times those coffee meetings are a bust. At least that's what I found. Mind you, this is in Los Angeles where everyone's an actor, a producer, a director, a filmmaker, but really they're a bartender. The legit ones are out there, and there are people that will help you. And there are organizations you can join. There's, I would say, internships. Take on an internship and stay in touch with all those people. There are excellent internships and excellent opportunities. If I had to do it over again, I would have done more internships. That's a great way to get your foot in the door and get some contacts. And if you find someone who takes a shine to you, and maybe the internship isn't exactly what you want to do, you can invite that person to lunch and just kind of pick their brains. There's definitely going to be people who will help you out along the way. You shouldn't let those opportunities pass by. And you always want to be gracious and definitely stay in touch with them.
What do you see happening in your future, and do you have any long-term goals for your career?
I'm still producing. I wound up recently starting my own company. It's called HollywoodConsultingStudios.com. It's to consult with people, help them break into Hollywood, move up the ladder. If they have a great idea for a show, it's to help them get their pitch materials together to take it out and pitch it to executives and buyers. I see myself continuing to produce and growing my company I just launched.
You told me about that back when we first met. I've never heard anything like that before. That was a very cool conversation.
Well, there's not a lot of people doing it. So that's probably why.
Yeah, I'm just a guy from a small city over here, but...
It doesn't matter where you start. That's the thing, too. Like, I know you're at Owens. It does not matter where you start. It does not matter where you go to school. You could go to Brown. You could go Ivy League. You could go to USC Film School. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, this is a craft. Mm-hmm. Storytelling is a craft. Being a cinematographer, a craft. An audio engineer, it's a craft. If this is what you want, if this is a career in Hollywood is what you want, if that's what you are passionate about, you're going to enjoy learning about it. There was a guy, I started out at E! Entertainment Television, and he went to BGSU, Jeff Shore. He was pretty high up at E! And all of the interns always came from BG. Use your alumni. Get an alumni group. You just never know. Don't be intimidated by someone from a bigger city or went to a more expensive school than you. It does not matter. You know what matters? Your work ethic, and are you hungry? Are you a sponge? Are you humble? Are you easy to have on set? Are you easy to have in the writer's room? Whatever it is that you want to do, if you want it, you're going to get it. Don't let the small town thing, a smaller school thing, it doesn't matter. Learn the craft.
You've kind of elaborated on this. What kinds of hands-on opportunities were available to you when you were in college or as you were learning your craft?
When I was in college, reality TV wasn't a thing. And the majority of people in my program wanted to be on camera news talent, except me. I asked if I could make documentaries instead, and I was told yes. There was that. I got an internship. I cannot stress enough internship. There's so many internships out there. I know they can be tricky to find, but I would say internships and read and do research, which in this case, the research is fun because you watch TV and watch movies.
My name is Alex Drabek, and I've been speaking with Jill Mitchell-Williams, who is a freelance television producer / writer. She's worked on other TV shows like Ellen's Next Great Designer, Murder Made Me Famous, and The Biggest Loser. My audio engineer, her name is Maggie Spittler. I just want to thank her. And I want to say thank you to you, Jill, for taking the time out of your day and being a part of this podcast with me.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
This has been the Professionals Podcast by Music Business Technology and Broadcast Media Technology students. Join us next time on Outcast OCCR Owens Community College Radio.